Okay, we're recording. How much are you supposed to stick to the script? This is a question every actor has to ask. I did some acting today, and I found a piece of writing I liked, and I did 2 takes performing it. One where I stuck to the script pretty precisely, and one where I embellished a bit more, made it my own. I thought it'd be interesting to compare the two and talk about why I chose to do the embellishments that I did. Not that I will be able to say why, because you can't always put this shit into words, but I will try. It's hit record from home, collaborating with people every day, trying to stay creative together during this quarantine. So the project is called The Wind, started by Voices with Danielle, who also wrote this poem that I really liked. When I see a piece of writing, sometimes I just start reading it out loud without even really thinking about it. And to me, that's a very good sign. Like, especially if I'm going through scripts and I'm in the very, very fortunate position. I was not always in this position. I used to read scripts and just be like, I hope they give me the part, whatever the fuck it is. I spent years and years and years that way. Nowadays, fortunate, when I read a script, I'm going through the decision process of would I want to get involved with this or not. To me, one of the biggest signs that I do want to get involved with it is if I just kind of start reading it out loud. And it's not even something I'm really totally conscious of why, but if it just kind of feels like good to start reading, I'm like sitting there reading it to myself. And if I just end up kind of speaking it, and again, I don't know why, but I clock that. I'm like, oh, I'll usually notice like a minute later or whatever. Oh, I'm reading it out loud. That's good. So that happened with this poem written by Voices with Danielle. Bravo on a nice piece of writing. And she started a project. She's asking actors to perform the words into a microphone. And she says she might want to turn it into a short film, combine it with cinematography, illustration, etc. And like I said, when I started reading it, I read it the first time, and as I started reading it more, because it always involves repetition, I'm reading it over and over again, I started changing it a little bit. And again, I'm not entirely conscious or like thinking through in any analytical or logical way why. It's just that same feeling that's driving me to speak the words out loud sometimes drives me to say it a little differently. And it's interesting, the question of how much you stick to the script. It really, for me, it's always dependent on the material, and I've done acting jobs where I stick very strictly to the script, like Brick and Looper, both written by Rian Johnson. I try to just learn those word for word. The Lookout, written by Scott Frank, I just try to learn those, word for word. And then there's the other extreme, like I'm in a movie that is going to come out in a month or so called 7500, where it was mostly improvisation. Even though there was a script, the director really encouraged us to go off the script. And then there's in between, and the kind of normal, the kind of conventional way to do it in movie acting culture, at least in this country nowadays, is you stick mostly to the script, but if you want to like kind of make it your own a bit, that's accepted and encouraged. I also just did a movie for Aaron Sorkin. You do not deviate from the script one word, not one word. And it's great because his writing's so good. But then other times you want to kind of make it your own, and the writer's almost expecting you to do that, and it helps the performance in the movie and it helps it all to sound more natural if you make it your own. So I'm gonna play you the version where I made it my own first. And in fact, I'll play you the version where I made it my own, but I'll put the original text on the screen so you can see the differences of what I said and what was written. Is it possible to be jealous of the wind? Blowing free with time to stay still, but strength to lift, to carry, to drop, to stop. Can the wind make the fields green with envy? Just touching those of us who are rooted to the ground, dancing through grass and trees, moving past cliffs and seas. An ability to calm with a desire to destroy. Unpredictable. Unknowing. Oh, to be the wind. I am jealous of the wind. You can see the differences aren't big. And I also did another take, by the way. I don't need to play this for you, but I did provide another take. Often when I'm doing voice acting contributions on HITRECORD, I'll do more than one take. Just start over and record it again. Especially if it's gonna be a short film, it'll be edited later anyway. So Voices with Danielle can pick and choose what she wants. I like to try to empower the project leader because it's their project. She started it. I, as the contributor, is like, I'm trying to help her do her thing. Same with being an actor, giving a director options and different takes. Anyway, I'll just talk a little bit about some of the changes I made. Some of them are small and some of them are a little bigger. So I think the first time I said something a little bit different than what was written is the second line here. The second line is freely blowing, and instead I said blowing free. Why? It wasn't because I had any kind of logical reason why blowing free is a better thing to say than freely blowing. It just, I guess, felt a little more natural to me. That's a lot of what this stuff comes down to, is just feel. The next time I changed, it was actually in the next line. It's written, with the time to stay still, motionless, but the energy and strength to lift. And I think I just shortened it. It's blowing free, with time to stay still, but the strength to lift. That's one thing I actually do a lot, is make things shorter, or just kind of make my life. So I oftentimes will be, I'll come up to a director and be like, can I just not say anything here? And I'm often the actor. It's like I don't need more lines. I probably need less, because ideally you're communicating the feeling with more than just the words, and so oftentimes on a page you'll need more words to get the feeling across, but once it's up on its feet, once you're acting it, you don't need all those words necessarily. You're just kind of communicating it with your performance. So I don't know, it just seemed a little easier to say for me it's the same exact idea, it's just fewer words. And then the last thing I changed is the last line. This is more of a change. And this is I gave a second take where I did it the way it's written, but I for me, felt a little more natural. It's written to repeat the first line, is it possible to be jealous of the wind? And I did one where I said, I am jealous of the wind. And there's a difference between when you're an actor and you're deviating from the script. Sometimes, like I say, you're taking the same exact ideas that are written, but you're kind of just putting them into words that feel more natural for you to say, and that's one thing. This is different. This is actually changing the idea, and that's, depending on the filmmaker's appetite for collaboration, that's in bounds for an actor to say well, wouldn't my character say more of this? But yes, this is a change. It's no longer a question. It's answering the question that the piece begins with. And again, it just kind of comes down to how I felt. After saying all this, I did feel jealous. It wasn't a question to me anymore. And so I tried that. So there you have it. There's diving way into the weeds on the little details that actors and writers and directors and folks think about when we're making these things. Maybe that's interesting to you, especially if you're interested in acting or filmmaking or writing, or you just as a fan you enjoy knowing about the details. But that's the kind of shit that I think about, is should I say blowing free or freely blowing? Do some voice acting. Hopefully this inspires you. Stick to the script or not. If you don't stick to the script, maybe do a take where you do, just to give the project leader her options. And once again, thanks to Voices with Danielle for this writing and for starting this project. And yeah, I'll leave it there for today. Thanks again.